Yeah, here we go. And we're back with the Shacknews Awards 2023. You can keep that cadence in if you want, Greg. We are talking about the Shacknews Award for the best Switch game of the year 2023. Let me get into the nominees, and then we will fight to the death and declare one winner after all of that. Our first nominee, winner of several other Shacknews Awards this year, F-099, released in September of 2023. The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, released in May 2023. Super Mario Bros. Wonder, released in October of 2023. Super Mario RPG Remake, released in November of 2023. Pikmin 4, released in the summer of 2023. And a Shadow Drop Nintendo Direct announcement, Metroid Prime Remastered, launched all the way back at the beginning of the year 2023. So these are some games that came out for Nintendo Switch, all published and developed by Nintendo Switch, by Nintendo developers. Where the hell do we want to start this conversation?
Start with Mario.
Mario, okay.
Which one?
Which Mario?
Super Mario Wonder.
Luigi Mario or Mario Mario?
Mario.
Okay.
I love Super Mario Brothers Wonder. I didn't hate New Super Mario Brothers. I thought it got stale. Yeah, that was my bigger problem with it more than any mechanical choices. But New Super Mario Brothers Wonder came out after 2D Mario spent some time in hibernation, and I think it was needed.
It had a summer at Mario Maker too, but yeah,
it did. Yeah, it did. But like a Nintendo-made 2D Mario game, we hadn't seen one of those in a little while. And
Mario Maker 2 did have Nintendo-made levels and a campaign in it.
That's true, but it pales in comparison to the campaign of Super Mario Brothers Wonder.
Correct.
I love this game. I think it is the most radical reinvention of Mario, 2D Mario we've seen probably since Mario 3. I do prefer Mario World, but it was definitely iterative. I think it kind of perfected what Mario 3 introduced, and Super Mario Brothers is just the next big step forward. I love so much about this game. It handles really tightly and responsively, just like Mario controls should. I love the creativity of the worlds and the Wonder Seeds. I love that each world is worth playing with and without the Wonder Seed. That's how you get a lot of the secrets. I feel like this game is accessible in terms of player skill. And I thought New Super Mario Brothers did that as well. The levels tend to be easy, but the challenge for veteran players came in finding the star coins. I feel the same way about the large purple coins in this one. I also love the multiplayer modes. I wish it had online synchronous co-op. But I can overlook that because what they did is so solid, and Nintendo deserves a lot of praise for that alone, because that's not one of their strong suits and never has been.
No, but especially in 2D Marios,
especially in 2D Mario,
online play has been god awful. So to go from just the worst, memeable in how terrible it was, to this is a huge improvement. And going back to just the local multiplayer, removing the collision detection that led to so many fights when people were playing New Super Mario Bros. Together, it's a huge win, I think, for what local co-op you can do in that game.
Yeah, I also love the variety of mini game style levels. I like the arena ones where you have to choose power-ups and clear 4 or 5 stages of enemies as quickly as possible.
Did you get to the multiple choice quiz?
I haven't gotten there yet. No,
I don't want to spoil anything, but there may be a quiz at some point.
There may or may not be a quiz.
I love that. There are these one-off moments in the game, all over the place, and you could miss them if you don't 100% it. So
yeah, that's kind of like a Mario calling card. I love when Nintendo comes up with something awesome, and it's just no, we're only doing this once. Karibo's shoe was just in one level of Mario 3, and they waited decades to bring it back.
They got decades of mileage out of it too.
They did. They really did. And I think my favorite mini game style stage are the ones where you have to hunt down the question mark coins, because I love finding, I can usually find around 3 on my own, but then I love watching what other people are doing for little hints like, oh, there must be a platform there because they're standing on the air in my game, and oh, I found a hidden block that only Daisy could reveal. I just love this game from top to bottom. I think it's the best 2D Mario since Super Mario World, and
Yeah.
time may say that it's even better.
And also just they took some risks, right?
They did.
Brand new voice of Mario, brand new voice of Luigi. The gameplay mechanic is different. You are a faster Mario in this game than you were in the new Super Mario Bros. Games.
Yeah.
It's somewhere in between the speed of Super Mario 3 and Super Mario World, I feel like. I'm not entirely sure where it lands, but it's in between those two. And if you're talking about 2D Mario, those are two of the GOATs right there. There's all these little nods to Super Mario 3, like the sprite animation when Mario is running with P speed and he jumps. Like, it looks like the cover of Super Mario 3. There's these other moments where obviously Yoshi's in this game. The things that you can do with Yoshi in this game kind of remind me of that first time you would experiment with Yoshi in Super Mario World. And they redesigned the sound effects in some cases to make it feel a little more retro at times. Each Wonder Flower unlocking a completely different game. Like, Wonder Flowers could have been in every other level. But Nintendo's like, no. Every single level is going to have a wonder mechanic. And it adds to the playability of the game, like the replayability of the game. You're going to want to play these levels more than once. And then the whole speedrunning scene that's being born out of it is just awesome to see.
To that end, I have to mention the power-ups. Like, the Super Mushroom and Fire Flower are kind of like the foundational power-ups, and you have them represented here. But I think these are probably, to your point, Asif, the most experimental power-ups that they've introduced in a long time. Like, as much as I love the feather or the cape in Super Mario World, you can kind of cheese a lot of levels with that. They become trivial, and it was really building on the leaf from Mario 3. I couldn't tell you whether I prefer the bubble, the drill, or the elephant. Like, they're all so useful, but I love that the bubble, for example, not only can you encase enemies and turn them into coins, but you can use the bubbles as platforms. To reach new heights. And we haven't even talked about I'm blanking on the name, but the power-ups. You choose one to take into each level, like the parachute, the badges. There we go. I love the parachute. That's my favorite, and my second favorite is the passive one that reveals hidden blocks. I play courses 3 times, one with the Wonder Flower, one without, and one with hidden badges, just to see where I can go and see where they lead. I love that. I like
the floating high jump badge quite a bit, and I also like the grapple shot. The fact that they put a grappling hook in Mario, that unlocks a whole new world of gameplay here. Steve, do you have anything you want to say about Super Mario Wonder? Super Mario Bros. Wonder?
Yeah, I could take it here for a little bit. The music in the game is fantastic. They revolutionized Mario's jump noise, and when you change Mario's jump noise to be a guitar, you're doing something right. I love the stages where you just hear retro music running across to collect the 5-star coins. Piranha plants running through the front, and that. One thing I did wish was that it was a little longer. That was really the only knock I had on Mario Wonder, is that it was a little short for me.
Well, you're like one of the greatest Mario players of all time, so.
I mean, it's not a knock on the game. It's probably more of saying I have way too much time to do these things.
Did you 100% it?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
And have you beat all the special worlds?
Yep.
See, this guy is just different. That's all I'm saying. Like,
he's built different.
You're just built different.
I did my first special world level about a week ago, and
and then on the show I tried to 100 again, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't beat the final stage on camera.
Oh no!
Oh, a little like briefcase level 8, eh?
Those super levels are ridiculously like fun in their concepts, though. Like, I really, like we've talked about it. Like, they must have been looking at the Kaizo scene a little bit, just for how much of the interesting platforming you had to do to get through some of those levels. it made me kind of want to go back and try the briefcase levels again because like I was flexing my fingers to get through those. And I'm like, maybe it's time. Maybe I'm warmed up again.
Mario Maker 2, just sitting there, ready, waiting for you. But no, like, funny we bring up Maker though, because like I want to build Wonder levels now. I'm really curious, what are they going to bring to Mario Maker 3 from this game? Because to David's point, and DJ, you kind of mentioned it too, they like broke the mold for what a level can be in a Mario game. And I really do think not just taking inspiration from the Maker levels, but also ROM hacks and also like indie games like Celeste or other really popular, indie platformers. There's influences from everywhere in this game. And it's like, so often Nintendo just does the safe thing over and over and over. And that's just not true of Mario Wonder at all. Mario Wonder takes a ton of risks and it wins in everywhere that it takes a risk. And that's rare. And it's awesome. So yeah, hell of a game there. Man, this is a very stacked list. So we should get on to the next one, unless anyone else wants to say something nice about Mario Wonder. You can be an elephant.
You can be an elephant.
You can be an elephant. And boy, did Facebook eat up our elephant gameplay videos. They just wanted more elephant Mario.
Yes.
Also, just the introduction of the Flower Kingdom, I think, is cool. I thought Prince Florian is adorable. It's like, they're really good at just like, and the guys were just walking over here because they had an invite from Prince Florian. It's like, okay, brand new kingdom, just born out of nowhere. I'm sure that won't show up in a motion picture down the road. But yeah, Elephant Mario. I remember talking to you, David, when I was reviewing it. I'm like, if this game just added Elephant Mario, I'm probably giving it a 9. But everything else, you put all of it together, yeah, this is the first 10 that Nintendo has received from Shacknews in a review.
Yep.
And yeah, I had nothing bad to say about it on the con side. But I do think we should move on to another nominee here. Ozzy. Let's talk Mario RPG, man.
Yeah. I've made it no secret that the original Super Mario RPG is my favorite game of all time. Taking a character like Mario and opening up his world in ways that people at the time never thought possible. Like, it sounds quaint now, the idea of Mario in an RPG. In 1996, it was unimaginable. Just as unimaginable as the idea of getting a remake was, because there were so many cooks in that kitchen between Nintendo and Square Enix. And we didn't think that they could get the licensing ducks in a row to make this remake happen, and it did. I'm not going to say the remake is better, because as much as the remake and the original feel like two different sides of the same coin, the art style on both are wonderful. I love the updated art style. I love the quality of life improvements, even if it makes the game itself a little bit too easy. And I absolutely love what they've done with the post game. And it's the closest that we're going to get to like kind of an epilogue when it comes to like the post game, and the post game getting those second boss fights and making puzzles out of them to kind of make you think more about the way to use the formula in a different way. I absolutely loved it. The only bad thing I'm going to say about the Mario RPG remake is, I've said this before, that the original Super NES cartridge was a technical marvel. The way that chipset made a game possible on the Super Nintendo that shouldn't have been possible. Whereas with the remake, you're getting Switch lag. And it's just showing the age of the Switch hardware. And it's just like, it's kind of the opposite effect, But other than that, this was as good a remake as I could ask for.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that, a lot of these great games Nintendo released this year are being released on extremely old hardware. But it kind of shows you how magic they are. That, like, Mario Wonder, 3.5 gigabytes. That's it. Like, you know how big video games are these days? Like, Nintendo is still able to pack an amazing game into like a small package, and maybe not using the best hardware, but it does there are times, several of these games in this category, where the Switch does show its age at times. But that doesn't make it a bad game. That doesn't prevent it from being nominated for Best Switch Game of the Year. So here we are. But yeah, it also gave us the gif of Mario Uppies. So had
Yeah,
to had to had to break that out.
Watching them all dance when you level up is hilarious. I love that so much.
Mm-hmm.
just watching Bowser go from the gruff pose when he's leveling up, and then him doing the dance when somebody else is leveling up. It's just the best.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I also I really should note that it's incredible to see to just see the revamped soundtrack. You can have the classic soundtrack, but the fact
Yeah.
that the original composer was able to improve on her own work with a lot of those updated tracks, just amazing.
I love that option, and especially in these RPG games. I think Star Ocean did that too, right, TJ? Where you can toggle between new and old soundtrack.
Mhm.
That's awesome. I love stuff like that because Ozzy, like, I still listen to the Super Mario SNES like soundtrack. Just
It's one of the best ever.
yeah, I just put it on and just listen to it during the day. It's amazing. So yeah, when I was going through your gameplay, helping edit it, I was like, oh man, this song sounds so good. Because like they took what I already loved and they polished it up really well. And yeah, Mario RPG
A
has
little modern
excellent
instrumentation, a little more of a longer loop. Like it's great. It's everything they've done with it.
Yep, for sure. But let's move on to the next nominee. Let's go with Pikmin 4. TJ, I believe you reviewed Pikmin 4 for us at Shacknews, right?
I did. This game was like, I have some experience with the Pikmin series, but like this game. Well, first off, I love the addition of the dog, Owachi.
Mhm.
Dog Alien is your best friend, and he is a very good boy.
Mhm.
He will help gather your Pikmin for you. He will help carry things around. You feed him a spicy pepper, and he'll blow fire. You can do all sorts of things with
He can run
Owachi.
into stuff, right?
You can like the fun part is that you can actually play two players with one player controlling the astronaut and the other player controlling Owachi, and I think that's a great way to break up the action because Owachi has so much stuff it can do already. It's not like games like Mario Odyssey where I felt like Odyssey two player is kind of tacked on with
Yeah,
you being able to play Cappy.
sure.
Awachi feels like a fully fleshed out character that is actually fun to operate.
Mhm.
I also like just being able to break up, like have yourself as the astronaut and be able to send Awachi to a different place with some of the Pikmin, and Awachi will look after the Pikmin and defend them from harm. Um, and then like just the world, like the biomes are so fleshed out and so colorful and so vibrant, and they're just like backyards and sand pits
Yeah.
and just like, but how whimsical and charming does Nintendo make something as simple as being down beneath the leaves of a backyard look?
Well, somebody left their Game Boy Advance in one of those yards, and it was a delightful moment in the game where you get to, I guess, reclaim the Game Boy Advance for the
Mhm.
people of your planet.
Those whoever lives in this area are pack rats because they just leave their stuff everywhere.
Yeah, it's an awesome game. It's another one where it might be my favorite menu theme of the year. It may not be the best music of the year, but I could sit at that menu screen for a while. It's just a very chill, calming song, and the soundtrack in that game is also excellent. It's also I believe it's the second game to have Nintendo pictures in the credits. So
Mhm.
the cut scenes that we see, which are actually very good in Pikmin 4, uh, that's all Nintendo Pictures at work. Those are the folks who used to do the Smash cinematics that got acquired by Nintendo last year. So we've seen them in 2 games, credited in 2 games this year. So Nintendo Pictures is hard at work making cool cutscenes for games right now.
Also, going to put it out there, a strangely terrifying game.
Mm-hmm.
Like you, I felt it in my soul every time I failed to defend a Pikmin from a horrible monster that just gobbled them up or speared them with its tendrils or stomped on them. And there are like a lot of different unsettling creatures in that game that you come across and like you don't know what to do in the first instance. And so you just run around scrambling trying to collect your boys and run away. And like man, some of the creatures in that game are like got to come from some dark and mysterious places in the Nintendo imagination because they are terrifying.
Mm-hmm. No, a worthy nominee, and I think a game that a lot of people forgot came out this year just because of how many bangers were released afterwards. Honestly, because I think it was July that it released, and we got Baldur's Gate in August. A bunch of other games in September, obviously, and people were still playing Tears of the Kingdom when Pikmin 4 came out. So it's a very worthy nominee, and it was kind of surprising, like when we heard Pikmin 4 was coming out. It was cool that they announced like Pikmin 1, 2, and 3 were all coming to Switch also. So now I believe it's the only system where you can play all 4 Pikmin games. And Pikmin is Miyamoto's, I think it's his last IP that he created. So that studio still takes it very seriously and deserves the nomination, but I don't think it's gonna win. I don't think it's gonna win. I hate to say it.
It is the underdog in this category, and I think Pikmin has always been, and I feel like Nintendo is okay with that. I feel like they know that sort of game doesn't have the massive appeal of a Mario or a Zelda, but it is.
I don't know.
I do. I don't think it has the mass appeal of a Mario or a Zelda. I think it's great, but we'll see.
I just from watching them very closely, we can ignore the review process for that game.
Mm.
The amount of money they're spending on advertising for Pikmin 4 this holiday is very noticeable. So it's like, while it's not their biggest game at all, they at the company view it with a lot of reverence, and they want it to be viewed as a AAA title that Nintendo makes. And I think that they've had varying degrees of success with that franchise. It's kind of like Animal Crossing before New Horizons. We haven't seen that massive hit from a Pikmin game yet. But the people who love Pikmin absolutely love Pikmin 4. I'm kind of on the fence. It's not my favorite IP that they own, but that game is beautiful.
Well, that's what you said is what I meant, right? Like they want it to do well. They do see it as a AAA, but they also know that there are other IPs, and then there's Mario and Zelda.
Yeah,
But
like we barely saw an ad for Tears of the Kingdom. They didn't need to run ads.
They didn't need to.
And I think with Pikmin 4, like still, like there's all these holiday ads for it right now where they're like wearing Christmas hats, and they're very cute. And I know early on, one of the first video projects that Nintendo ever did were a series of Pikmin shorts. So there's like a reverence for that IP very high up at the company, I think. So a worthy nominee, but one that definitely sticks out in this category this year. We also got Metroid Prime Remastered this year. And while it's not necessarily a new game for Nintendo Switch, it makes me confident that they can they can make a Metroid Prime game on Switch hardware and it'll run and look great. Because Prime Remastered does that in spades. And I think a lot of people, the last we heard of Prime on Switch was Prime 4 being delayed indefinitely. And then to get this shadow dropped earlier this year was definitely a surprise. And it's a very good game and it looks amazing on Switch. So I don't know.
And the way they translated the control scheme to modern platforms is worth noting.
Yeah, because it was a GameCube game. That second analog on the GameCube was not great. It was a C stick. So yeah, I agree. Being able to port that game with like traditional FPS controls on a Switch, and I've said this for a while, like Switch is devoid of FPS games. There's not a whole lot of them there, so it was nice and a complete surprise to see Metroid Prime Remastered appear out of nowhere this year. And there have been long rumors about the whole trilogy being remastered, blah blah blah, but we got one. and I think it was only $40, which I like. I like seeing Nintendo not just slapping $70 on every game this year. They seem to have a sliding scale of what they view games values at. Anyone else want to sing the praises of Samus before we move on?
Yeah, it's a good game. Like good game. Like they have multiple different control schemes for the game too. So if you want the old school GameCube controller layout, you can do that. You can use monitor controls, which is always nice. It's just as fun as I remember that game being. Everything was exactly how like it should have been. I don't think they made enough changes for me to notice in any particular place other than the controls and the layout.
Yeah, and I think
It
that's
still
where it's
holds up.
important.
Yeah.
That's where it's important to note that this was not a remake. This was a remaster. This wasn't a reboot. This
Yeah.
was a remaster. So they did stay true to the original, warts and all. But it was also a game that was very good for GameCube. So it's not that surprising that it's good still.
Yeah, it has its cultural and gaming history significance as being the first person Metroid game, and
Mhm.
it still holds up today. So yeah.
Nice. Another worthy nominee. Oh boy, what next? Let's talk about it. F-Zero 99 came out this year. Shadow dropped during the September 14th Nintendo Direct. I still don't believe that it actually exists. It's shocking. But it's everything I've ever wanted in an F-Zero game, which is my favorite racing franchise of all time. It's a 99-player battle royale death race set in the F-Zero universe. The SNES version of the game is kind of the inspiration of it, but it pulls from every other game in the franchise's history. How they've revamped how boost mechanics work, the amount of different skins that you can throw on your car or on your vehicle is really cool. The in-game progression systems are awesome. There's a rival system that helps you up your license grade. There's just a regular ranking system that is more about how much you have played the game. Each week, you compete to be on the leaderboard for various Grand Prix, where you get points for placing, various places in Grand Prix. The game added a spin mechanic that was introduced in F-Zero X. So this is the first time players have been able to spin in an SNES environment for F-Zero. It's an online game that Nintendo shipped that actually runs well with 99 people playing it at once. I can't stress that enough. It's an online game made by Nintendo that actually runs well. And I know that we shouldn't just be giving flowers for that, but man, this game would have been dead on arrival if it didn't have good online play. So
yeah, and not just runs well online like the other 99 games like Tetris, where the screens are just like beside your main screen. You've got all the races on the track beside you.
Yeah,
interacting with them physically as opposed to influencing them.
Sure, like there was a passive nature to the multiplayer aspects of Mario 35, Tetris 99, Pac-Man 99 that is not present in F-Zero 99. You are in the race with these people and these players, and yeah, the way that they indicate that that's a rival is super noticeable. The menu systems in this game are excellent. That menu song when the Grand Prix is available as the second mode option, it's like my favorite song maybe ever now. But yeah, I love the game. I'm biased. I am a F-Zero fan dating back to the original F-Zero for SNES. So it's no surprise that this game has captured my attention. Anyone else have anything they'd like to chime in about F-Zero 99? I've talked about this game in a lot of other categories, so if that seems like a quick take from me, it is, but there's plenty of other places where you can hear me talk about F-Zero 99, including Shackcast from years ago where I described this game, David. Like to a
Yeah, I know.
Like,
Yeah.
I predicted this, and it happened.
So, yeah, you did predict on multiple Shackcast episodes. This is actually my first experience with an F-Zero game to any significant degree, much how Animal Crossing New Horizons was that for the Animal Crossing series. I didn't know anyone growing up who had F-Zero. I came to Mario Kart pretty late. On N64, I was playing Diddy Kong. I didn't get into Mario Kart until Double Dash. So F-Zero was just one of those games I just didn't get a chance to play. And this was the perfect opportunity because it does feel like a spiritual successor to the SNES game, as you say. Like it's this lateral step where they're like, here's kind of a foundation. It has this retro look, but we're going to do things we couldn't have done on the SNES in kind of the same way that the old like Mega Man 9 and 10 games evoked NES, but technically were impossible. I've learned this game is hard, but it's challenging in the right ways. It never feels unfair. Like, I think the fact that it's almost like you're a bowling ball. You have to be very conscious that you can like slalom off the walls, and you have to factor that into when you drift, when you boost, when you want to jump on the Skyway. Just earlier this morning, I noticed there were a couple of 20-person races going, and I really enjoyed that.
The classic
There's
mode.
just the classic mode, yeah. Like it was just there's a lot of strategy in it, and I'm really, really enjoying my time with it.
And they've been adding tracks, so now you have all 3 of the original Grand Prix from the SNES game. They're adding modes. They added classic mode just a few weeks ago. The hope is that they add the death race from F-Zero X, because that was an infinite loop that did not it timed you on a high score kind of mentality, but you could go forever until you cleared it off. I think if they take that and they put that in this universe, because I'm wondering what's next for this game. Like, is F-Zero 99 going to only live in the SNES era, or can this game extend to the F-Zero X or maybe even the Game Boy Advance tracks? So that's where I'm wondering where this goes from here. At the very least, I'd like to see them add some sort of mode where you can play with friends in like a party with bots or something, because that doesn't exist right now. Although the practice mode is very robust. I also want to just mention the stat keeping in the game is excellent. So even if you're not winning, it'll tell you how you ranked as your vehicle in any given race, how you ranked as your class of driver in any given race, and obviously it keeps track of your best lap times and your best track times and your best placement on every track. So the amount of details that they keep track of in this game, outstanding. And I don't know if anyone remembers the SNES version of the game, but it also had really good stat keeping. It would tell you your best times and your best laps also. But obviously, placement wasn't, you had to win in F-Zero Grand Prix on the SNES. This is like, you don't necessarily have to win the race to feel good about how you played. And I have raced over 600 races and I have not won a single one yet. And I am enjoying the hell out of the game still.
I think it's really cool about the stats, the way that like, not only do you get like where you placed in the race, your best lap, you also get to see like how you performed among the other players that were using your same vehicle. You get to see how you performed amongst the other players that have your same rank. And those are just fun things to keep up with, because you're not going to win. Like you said, like you're not going to win a lot of races in F-Zero 99 by just sheer the difficulty of it all. But being able to have like milestones for yourself where you're at least being able to beat out the other people driving your car and the other people in your rank is a fun way to like feel like you still accomplished something.
Or even like when anyone who's watched me stream F-Zero 99, you understand the plight of Earl Divix in F-Zero. I'll be second, third place going into that last turn, and then I die, right? But at the end, when it shows me, hey, yeah, you died on that last turn, but you beat 3 of your rivals, it's the best consolation prize. Because, like, otherwise, there are these moments that really gut you in F-Zero 99, where you were just that close. But if you ever want to watch the Cleveland Browns of F-Zero 99, I'm your man. I snatched defeat from the jaws of victory left and right in that game, and I still love it. Because I just think it's an excellently designed game, and there's so much fan service. I know there's not as many F-Zero fans as there are Mario Kart fans, whatever. The people who have been dying for a game from this franchise for 20 years, every single one of us are just smiling when we open that game and Mr. Zero is giving you tips and all the music is back. Like, you know, there are some iconic songs in this franchise that people have forgotten are F-Zero songs. They thought they were Smash Bros. Songs. But yeah, there are so many excellent songs that were born in SNES F-Zero that continued on after that. But yeah, it's an excellent game. Complete surprise, came out of nowhere. Kind of Nintendo's core philosophy of surprising and delighting fans epitomized with this game. But I have a feeling it's not going to win.
But
Well, I want
also,
to
like,
say one more. Oh, Sam, go ahead.
I just wanted to quickly interject and say that and any game that lets me vote on a map or track to race on in my next game is all right by me.
Man, I don't know if you watch my streams enough, but I hate Sand Ocean, and I will be very vocal about all of the bastards that vote for Sand Ocean versus anything. Same thing with Mute City 2 most of the
so
time.
much every time I play. I hate it.
It is horrible, right, Ozzy? Like, every time you're like, oh man, I'm excited to play it. Oh, Sand Ocean. Yeah.
It's a wicked U-turn, man. Gets me every time.
Yeah. I have some tips for you, Ozzy. But yeah, sorry, go ahead, David.
Yeah, I've so recently been saying, like, F-Zero is a really hard game. A lot of our staff members like hard games, such as Elden Ring and the Souls games, and so you might like this. And I've been thinking a lot about that because I don't necessarily like hard games, and I think that Souls is often unfairly labeled as hard. It's just it's a type of game that punishes recklessness. You have to really think through things, and that's what I've found with F-Zero that I really like. Like when you play, they're really different types of games, right? Like Mario Kart is definitely arcade, like party game style. But what I notice is that, like, unless you're 3/4 of the way through the final lap of a Mario Kart level, you can come back from last, and you can probably do that more than once. And that's possible in F-Zero, but it's not because of like rubber banding or luck. F-Zero is all about risk reward, and that's where I kind of drew the connection to Souls. As I was playing more over the weekend and even today, I was like, I kind of get what Ossive means, and especially like when to boost and how much damage you take, because you could just completely blow up. That doesn't happen in Mario Kart. That's what I mean by you could come back. You're never dead, right? And that's what I'm really enjoying about it, having to be very calculated while I'm doing this, like, on the edge of your seat frenetic racing game, which is
It's
a really
the
interesting
balance.
dichotomy.
Yes. It's the balance of those two things, where F-Zero by itself as a single player game is a game of precision and of practice and of knowing the best strategy. And then it's like, we threw you all in a blender. Good luck. That's what it feels like. Like the 99 racers that are on the track with you at the same time. It's like you have a plan, but boy, something happens every race that screws up that plan in some way, and how you adapt to that is what determines if you progress or not in that game. And I just think it's a constant challenge, and it's this one more game the game. And I've said this in multiple categories, but I'll say it again. This game broke my Rocket League habit, and I think that is just wonderful. As someone who hasn't played Rocket League for months now, I feel a lot better about the state of humanity. And also just the F-Zero 99 community the F-Zero community needed this desperately, and we got it. And we're all very thankful and playing the hell out of the game now and talking mad shit to each other on Discord. It's been great. But if anyone has anything else to say, now's your shot. But I think we should probably get to the main event here. Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom shipped this year. Boy, what a game. This is the final game Anuma-san will make. I'm pretty sure he's indicated this was his last game. And yeah, Zelda does a lot right. But I've talked a lot. Anyone else want to talk about this game? Donovan, what do you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, Tears of the Kingdom is great, right? It's like Breath of the Wild, and then just everything cranked up to 11 with like doubling the size of the map with the depths, and then the Sky Islands, which I really like. I think Ultra Hand makes it an entirely different video game. It's one of those mechanics where, like, no matter how much you mess around with it, you feel like you only scratch the surface of what can be done with it. I think the shrines are all great. I still enjoy a lot of the combat and boss fights in it. I think that it is a perfect open world game. It's everything I want in an open world. There's constantly that rewarding for experimenting. Every time, just like Breath of the Wild, every time you think, "Wait, can I do this?" The answer is almost always yes. I think it's great.
Yeah, I
Excellent
like
video
that
game.
you mentioned the experimenting with the different systems, right? Ultra Hand. Also Ascend. right? There's just times where I'm like, I
Yeah.
wonder what happens when I ascend here, and you're like, oh, that's cool. So yeah, I
Mhm.
think that those systems all interact in a way that just as the person who's supposed to be reviewing this game, uh, just seeing how different it is than Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild felt very empty. You felt alone
fair.
a lot of the time. Tears of the Kingdom, Hyrule is like a bustling metropolis, and there's just a lot of stuff to do. But nothing in that game feels too much of a chore until you're upgrading armor or something. Although there are these side missions that don't really have any consequence to the main story at all, that do get frustrating. Like handing mushrooms to people in Hateno Village because there's some sort of mayoral election going on, and then like gathering bundles of rice for some village that's trying to do their thing. There are fetch quests like that, but this is a game where you don't have to do them. And my advice to anyone who's playing the game that may have run into something: stop doing what you're doing if you're being frustrated in Zelda, and go do something else. Because to Donovan's point, there's just that much to do in the open world that I think there will be something that you enjoy that you can get to. Just real quick, like the geoglyphs and how they're used to tell the story of the game, I think is excellent. I believe this is one of the most important stories in the history of the franchise. I believe that we're at an end point or a beginning point, however you want to view it. But I do think this is like the end of this game is super important, and it Breath of the Wild's ending was kind of lame if you think about it. The journey of getting to the end in Hyrule Castle was the story in Breath of the Wild. What happens at the end of Tears of the Kingdom is it's a perfect conclusion to what has been this 2 games long story, or 3 if you include Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. But like, this story ends perfectly, and I think it's a super important thing to note in this. And I've mentioned in other categories, I'll say it again, this is the best boss fight in the history of Nintendo games by far. And I mean that from a gameplay standpoint and from a story standpoint. It's very challenging, it's very rewarding, and it's awesome. Not to mention just the amount of emergent gameplay moments that are born out of this formula, which was true in Breath of the Wild, but also true in Tears of the Kingdom. I could see people playing this game for 1,000 hours before getting tired of it. And that's what you want out of an open world game. You want to be able to go back to it and still enjoy it and find more shrines. Real quick, I do want to mention the caves. The addition of the caves in the game, I think, are maybe better than even the depths. It was something that it felt missing in Breath of the Wild, right? Like, I think the Breath of the Wild was limited by the Wii U's hardware, and some of those things that would have made Breath of the Wild even better got scoped out and pushed to Tears of the Kingdom. So it's like, if they could have combined these 2 games into one game, it would have been amazing. But as a standalone game, Tears of the Kingdom is still excellent and very worthy of this nomination.
Would you
Sorry,
say
go ahead,
that?
Bill.
Yeah, I just wanted to I don't have the story Nintendo Pass that a lot of folks here have. So I'm someone who when I came into like Breath of the Wild and especially Tears of the Kingdom, like I'm more of like a fresh set of eyes on it than what a lot of folks around here might be. I think Tears of the Kingdom is not just a fantastic open world game, but it's a fantastic game. I found it just oddly rewarding at almost every turn. Like I know we've talked about some of the stuff, like a couple side quests and whatnot, where you're like, it's not really worth it. But I was thinking caves specifically, and also shrines. Like, there's something about a game that could take you hundreds of hours, but also breaks itself up into pieces that you can consume in a small amount of time. So if I wanted to play for 30 minutes, I could log in, knock out a shrine or 2, and leave, and still feel like I had done something. Like I don't have to go on a 2-hour quest. in order to get fulfillment out of that, or I could go through a cave. I always just felt like I was being rewarded no matter what it was doing. If I was unlocking like a Skyview tower, that was giving me access to the map. It was giving me like a place to basically jump off so that I can get where I need to go. Yeah, I absolutely love the fact that I never really felt like my time or my efforts or my creativity were being wasted, especially my creativity.
I ran
That's what
into
really
that.
stands out with Tears of the Kingdom. Sorry?
I've run into that where I built this amazing flying contraption in the depths, but I didn't have enough light. So boy, did I crash right into a tree.
Yeah,
so that-
and to be fair, I didn't like. I went to the depths and I was like, yeah, this is probably fun for folks, and I left.
Oh.
I didn't love it as in the depths, but like I love the game despite that because I love the Sky Islands and I loved like jumping off the Sky Islands, right?
Sweet
Like that,
jumps. Just the amount of sweet jumps you can do in this game. Like just sweet jumps, the game. It is literally sweet jumps, the game. Sweet waterfall, the game. Right? Like the amount of cool things you can do once you have the Zora tunic, right? That you can swim up waterfalls, then what that unlocks. The game it does a lot of what Breath of the Wild did right, with each temple being important, and each champion being important. But yeah, I don't know. There are the moments in the game that I remember, and this is where it really differs from Breath of the Wild. Most of the moments in Breath of the Wild that I remember were just random gameplay, emergent gameplay moments. In Tears of the Kingdom, most of my fond memories are, oh man, I did this, and then it unlocked this amazing part of the story. Once you understand all of the story, it makes those epic moments in Tears of the Kingdom more epic than, I'll just talk. The Master Sword moment in Tears of the Kingdom is better than the Master Sword moment in Breath of the Wild. And at the time, I said that the Master Sword moment in Breath of the Wild was my favorite part of the entire game. It felt like I won the game when you get the Master Sword in Breath of the Wild. The level of epicness that the moment has in Tears of the Kingdom, it's what moves that game up for me. Once you understand what's going on.
I spent like some people were lucky. I think TJ was lucky. I started to think like I remember we were writing a guide about how to get the Master Sword. Right? I'm not going to spoil how to get it, but we were writing a guide about it. And a couple people on our staff got really lucky and they were able to get it very quickly. Man, I had a campsite set up, like waiting for the opportunity to be able to like take a shot at getting the Master Sword in that game. And but it was a truly epic moment. And just real quick, the last thing, we have some folks on our staff, and I think of Sam specifically, who love boss fights. Beating their head against the wall, trying to overcome a boss, that's not me. Like, I'm like 3 attempts, and I'm like, I'm bored of this. What can I do? And Tears of the Kingdom gave me the ability, at least so far as I've gotten at this point, but that's pretty far, to cheese almost everything I wanted to, but like I love that. That's a payoff for me. Where Sam gets that high from like fighting a boss for 2 days and then overcoming it, I get that high from going, screw you, I got you. You didn't even know I was here. Peace out.
Yeah, like, I don't know, Stone Taluses or the Construct mini bosses in the Sky Island. You can certainly cheese them. You're not cheesing the Ganondorf fight.
No, and that's fair. And I don't think that you should be able to cheese every boss, especially like a final boss. I actually think that would be kind of cheap if you could do that. But
and this isn't much of a spoiler, but I love when games introduce gameplay mechanics at very pivotal moments. Tears of the Kingdom does that in the middle of the final boss battle, where you're like, I haven't had to do this in Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, but now suddenly I have to, and you have to figure it out then, or you're gonna die. I love stuff like that, and I've said it over and over again. This is the best boss battle and ending in the history of a Nintendo game.
My question is Tears of the Kingdom superior to Breath of the Wild? I guess is like what's the feeling of the group on that? Like, is it a better game than Breath of the Wild?
Luckily, Breath of the Wild is not nominated for this category,
right?
But obviously, this is a question that everyone asks. I think I had more fun playing Breath of the Wild, but Tears of the Kingdom is the better game. If that makes any
Yeah,
sense.
that was my experience as well. Like I've always liked this game, but it started pretty low on my top 10 list. It did make the cut. It was always going to make the cut, but it's very rare for me to be grabbed by a story over the gameplay. And that happened in this game, and that doesn't happen really in Zelda games. Like
No.
Skyward Sword probably has the best classics Zelda dungeons in the series. I didn't really like playing it despite that. I kept going for the story. I would say, like, to that point, like, I feel the same way as Asif. Like, I do think Tears of the Kingdom is a superior game. The reason why I haven't been as big on it, despite Zelda being my favorite series, is that Breath of the Wild felt fresher in more ways. I mean, for the longest time, Nintendo said this is the sequel to Breath of the Wild, and I was like, yeah, cool. I hope they don't make a third game in this world. I'm ready to move on.
They won't.
You know,
Anuma
I agree there. I think that's the right move, but like, it just wasn't. It's fresh in a lot of ways, but it wasn't as fresh as other games in this category to me.
It's the end. Like that end is a definitive end. Like,
I mean, if you really want a third game in that world, I mean, that's Hyrule Warriors is.
I don't want another game in this world.
No.
And nor should any other Zelda fan, because Zelda is a story about rebirth, reincarnation. You know, the story keeps going.
And
It'll
time
be
travel.
a different Link. And time travel. It'll be a different Link. It'll be a different Zelda. And it'll be a different world. And that's perfectly fine, because that's why these games still are interesting. Without the Breath of the Wild reboot, which is kind of what it was, Breath of the Wild felt in a lot of ways like the original NES Zelda game. And Tears of the Kingdom, I've been talking to David a lot about this. It kind of feels like a spiritual successor to Ocarina of Time in some ways. And it has this reverence for Ocarina of Time. Like, you can get the Hero of Time armor in this game. You can walk around, but it's not Link, right? That's not Link's armor. That's the Hero of Time's armor, right? So they do a really good job of, like, kind of not, like, nodding to the past while telling this story that kind of encapsulates everything.
Just because I think it's worth mentioning that, like, with Breath of the Wild, I hated that game at first. Like, I struggled for like a dozen hours to try to get into that game, and then once it clicked. It became one of my favorite games that year, and I played hundreds of hours into it. And with Tears of the Kingdom, I started out loving it, and then I didn't hate it, but I don't think I've fallen off a Zelda game so fast. Like, I got to the Fire Temple, and I was like, I'll get back to this later, and I just haven't picked it up since.
How many temples did you beat?
What?
How many temples did you beat?
Beat the air one with the fish, the water thing, the eel, right? Whatever, the thing that drops around, you have to like throw water on him and it pops him out and you have to hit him or whatever.
Oh, okay, that's the water temple.
Yeah, I did the water temple first.
You did the water temple first?
Yeah.
Huh.
I also did the water temple first.
Yeah, so like, I mean, and that was like, the game's not bad. I think the problem is, I look at it kind of like the Majora's Mask, like, right? It's a great game, but like comparing it to Ocarina of Time, it's just not the same. And I feel that with Tears too. I think it's the building stuff, because whenever I've never got my creativity off like by building games like Minecraft or Lego. Like, that never turned, my creativity is spent in other like sections of my brain, I guess, because the second I was able, Cass just broke something. The second I was just able to build something once and it was the most optimal thing, I never wanted to build again. So like, I didn't like when it was forcing me to build, hey, like, solve this puzzle. And I didn't get into that part of the gameplay, and I really missed the sages, the abilities, the soaring, that kind of stuff. I really missed that the whole game. I missed the tablet, especially.
Well, if you miss Rivali's Gale, boy, do I have a PSA for you. Fuse your rockets to a shield. And ta-da, you have Rivali's Gale again. So if that was
the building aspect of the game. I love that you're able to approach different situations in different ways.
It's divisive. I think there are two divisive things about Tears of the Kingdom: the depths and building. Mainly Ultra Hand. I think auto build people understand, and you can get blueprints, and it makes it a little easier, Greg, down the road. But yeah, it's definitely divisive. I think that the control scheme of Ultra Hand and the Sage powers, right? Like, all of that is implemented in a clunkier fashion than you see in Breath of the Wild. So that's probably what you're missing more than anything, Greg, is that it's just not as fluid as, being able to pull out a bomb, being able to throw stasis at something. The systems in Breath of the Wild were very well tied together, and they didn't feel like they were stepping on each other. Where Tears of the Kingdom has moments where it does feel like they get in the way of each other. And putting a map and an amiibo thing on a weapon wheel was a bad idea. I don't like this. Because I'll accidentally do the amiibo one just when I'm holding down the trigger, and that's annoying. These are minute problems that I have with the game, though, in the grand scheme of things. Does anyone else want to say something about Tears of the Kingdom before we move on? Nope. Okay, it's time to vote. I think, Donovan, you said I should vote first?
Yes.
Okay. Best Switch game. Not Asif's favorite Switch game. Right?
Yeah.
This is hard.
He's gonna
I
abstain.
gave it
Donovan,
10 to Mario Wonder. I gave it 10 to Mario Wonder. I love, F-Zero 99 is not just my favorite game of the year. It's my favorite game, period. I like that game more than any other video game. But, I know it's not for everyone. I'm going to vote for Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, for my best Switch game vote. Donovan, we'll go with you next.
I'm voting for Tears of the Kingdom.
David.
Mario Wonder.
Yep. I was obviously debating between those two. Denny.
I'm actually going with Mario Wonder on this one.
I don't think there's a wrong answer here.
No.
But we have to go to Steve, host of the Steve Tendo Show, Monday through Wednesday nights on Shacknews Twitch. Steve, what's your favorite Switch game of the year?
I'm giving it to Tears of the Kingdom. It's close between Mario RPG and Tears, but I am giving it to Tears of the Kingdom.
Wow. Sam.
It's got to be Zelda. The fact that I can learn things about that game whilst watching my wife play it and go, I didn't know you could do that. I really love that.
It has that GTA kind of quality to it, where each player plays it differently.
Yeah,
And
it was like, can you collect fairies? I'm like, I have no idea. Try. I don't know.
Of course
you can. Like, yeah, but I didn't know.
Do
I
that
didn't know
since
how.
SNES.
Yeah, I know, but I didn't
It's
know
a matter
how.
of knowing where to find them, though.
Sneak up on them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they always
Bill.
disappeared when I got to them. Like,
To be
sorry.
fair to Sam, he also didn't know you could wash the filth off yourself in Baldur's Gate. But
yeah, filthy.
you know what? It's actually not close for me. It's Tears of the Kingdom.
Wow. Ozzy.
Tears of the Kingdom, and we didn't even talk about the shrines and all the imaginative puzzles that they put into the shrines this time around.
No, I think Sam or Bill and I mentioned it earlier, but yeah, we kind of glossed over them. There's more shrines. I do want to also note that the light routes I loved, because the contrast of light and dark in the depths, and when you find a light route, how fulfilling that is, and also that every light route has a corresponding shrine above it, and how that informs your exploration, I just think is a super cool feature. But yeah, you're right. We need to give more flowers for the shrines. TJ.
There's something just kind of hilarious to me about beating up a really hard to kill monster, taking its horn, putting it on a sword, and going and beating up its friends. It's Zelda has an incredible gameplay loop, and I love a good hard monster battle. And that is a particular place that it excelled for me, was hunting down Lionels and Moldugas and different
Gleeoks.
kinds of things. Gleeoks, that's one of my favorite things to fight in this game. They're so hard and they'll kill you so fast. But defeating one, you just want to scream to the heavens, I'm God now.
Boy, when I accidentally came across the three-headed Gleeok that each one was a different power, when I came across that bastard down in the depths, I got my ass handed to me repeatedly. And then I learned that I should just implement my strategy of the Legend of getting the hell out of Dodge, and I did.
But when you beat one of those, you feel oh my gosh, it's so good.
let me just tell you, that feeling times 10 is the end of that game.
Yeah.
It is a good feeling. Greg.
It's Mario Wonder.
Okay. Well, that's it. Zelda wins. And every single one of these games rules. This was a hell of a year for Nintendo. It really was. I think this feels like the end of the Switch. Like, yes, the Switch will live on, but this is how you go out with one of the best consoles you ever made. So congratulations to Nintendo and all the teams that worked on The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, because it really was a team effort across a lot of different units of their company. Congratulations. Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is our best Switch game of the year 2023.
You are our final hope.